A raging flood, a courageous police officer, and a fight against nature's fury. This is the story of Officer Lee. When the waters rose, he left behind his family's tearful embrace to save villagers trapped in the storm. Through exhaustion and peril, he carried the weak, rescued children, and became a beacon of hope. But as the flood grew merciless, Lee himself was swept away by the raging current. Did he survive, or was he lost to the river's depths? Stay with us, subscribe to our channel, and join us as we uncover this gripping tale of sacrifice and resilience. The rain had been falling relentlessly for days, turning quiet streams into roaring rivers and peaceful villages into seas of chaos. By the time the great flood finally surged in, there was no escape from its wrath. Brown, foaming water spilled over embankments, devouring rice fields, uprooting trees, and sweeping away everything in its path. The sound of rushing torrents filled the air like the growl of a furious beast, drowning out even the thunder above. People ran frantically in every direction, clutching bundles of belongings, calling out the names of loved ones, desperate to reach higher ground. In the midst of this calamity, one man stood tall, Officer Lee, a young police officer whose duty weighed heavier than fear. Lee's uniform clung to him, soaked through, yet he wore it with pride, as if it were a shield against the storm. He had no time to think of his own safety, no moment to waver between fear and resolve. His duty was clear: to protect and to serve. Before heading into the heart of danger, he made one last stop. At the doorway of his modest home, Sam clung tightly to his arm, her eyes swollen with tears, refusing to let go. Beside her, his older sister held back her own sorrow, her lips pressed into a trembling line as she tried to appear strong. Lee bent down, brushing a strand of wet hair from Sam's face, and spoke softly but firmly, his voice carrying both tenderness and determination. "Listen to me," he whispered, his eyes meeting theirs with unwavering conviction. "You must stay safe. I need you to trust me. I will come back. I promise." The words were simple, but in the chaos of the storm, they felt like lifelines. Sam sobbed against his chest while his older sister finally reached out, gripping his hand as if to hold on to him a moment longer. Outside, the water was already rising dangerously fast, lapping at the steps of their home. There was no more time. With a final embrace, Lee straightened his back, turned away, and stepped into the tempest. The wind howled around him, the rain stung his skin, but his stride was steady. Behind him, the cries of his family faded beneath the roar of the flood. Ahead of him, countless lives awaited rescue. And so, with no regard for his own safety, Officer Lee walked into the storm, a lone figure of courage against nature's fury. The storm swallowed Lee the moment he stepped beyond the safety of his home. Sheets of rain struck his face like shards of glass, and the ground beneath him had already transformed into a swirling current. But he pressed forward, his boots sinking into the mud, his breath steady, his eyes scanning the chaos around him. Everywhere he looked, there were faces etched with fear, children clinging to mothers, elders trembling with exhaustion, men shouting for their families over the deafening roar of the water. The village was no longer a place of life. It had become a battlefield against nature's wrath. Lee's instincts sharpened with each cry for help. He waded through waist-deep water to reach an elderly man stranded on the porch of a collapsing house. With one swift motion, he pulled the man onto his back and carried him toward the evacuation point, fighting the pull of the current with every step. The villagers reached out to steady them, their voices breaking with gratitude, but Lee wasted no time. Another scream pierced the air, a child trapped on a floating piece of debris drifting toward the torrent. Without hesitation, Lee dove into the freezing water. His muscles burned as the current dragged him sideways, but his determination was stronger than the flood. With a powerful stroke, he seized the boy, cradled him against his chest, and kicked his way back toward safety. When they finally reached the bank, the child's mother collapsed in tears, clutching her son as if she would never let him go again. Lee did not stop. His lungs screamed for rest, his limbs grew heavy, yet he pressed on, answering every desperate cry. He guided families onto boats, steadied trembling hands as they climbed to higher ground, and carried the weak when their legs could no longer move. Each rescue stole a piece of his strength, but it also fueled his resolve. The people looked to him not just as an officer, but as their beacon of hope amid despair. Lightning split the sky, illuminating Lee's silhouette against the raging flood. For a fleeting moment, he seemed unstoppable, a solitary guardian standing against nature itself. Yet deep within the turning waters, danger gathered strength, waiting to strike with merciless force. Lee knew the battle was far from over, but he refused to yield. His heart belonged to the people, and every beat of it pushed him forward into the storm, determined to save as many lives as the flood would allow. The night deepened, and with it the fury of the storm. The rain no longer fell in drops, but in sheets, as if the sky itself were collapsing upon the earth. The river, swollen beyond recognition, surged with monstrous power, tearing through homes, fields, and bridges alike. Officer Lee, drenched and trembling with fatigue, had already saved dozens, but every rescue chipped away at his strength. His muscles ached, his chest burned with each breath, yet his spirit refused to yield. He moved forward with sheer willpower, driven by the desperate faces that looked to him as their last hope. Then, without warning, the ground beneath him gave way. The water had carved out a hidden channel, and Lee stumbled into it, swept instantly off his feet. The current seized him like the claws of a beast, dragging him into its dark embrace. Villagers screamed his name, their cries muffled by the roar of the torrent. For a brief moment, Lee's head broke the surface. He gasped for air, his eyes blazing with determination, and tried to fight his way back. His arms thrashed against the current, his body twisting as the river hurled him downstream like a rag doll. Memories flashed in his mind, the tearful eyes of Sam, the trembling grip of his sister's hand, the countless lives he had sworn to protect. He could still feel the warmth of the children he had carried to safety, the gratitude in the villagers' voices. He knew his fight was not just against the water, but against the silence of despair. Even as the flood battered him, he kicked, reached for anything to hold on to, a branch, a rooftop, a shred of hope. Yet the current was merciless. It pulled him under, swallowed his cries, and spun him into its depths. On the riverbank, villagers rushed forward, straining their eyes through sheets of rain, searching for his figure in the raging waters. Sam fell to her knees, her voice breaking as she called his name, while his sister clutched her chest, her heart shattering with each second that passed without his return. The storm raged on, indifferent to human grief. And yet, somewhere within that torrent, a spark of defiance burned. Lee's body might have been swept away, but his will, his courage, and his promise to come back still clung to life. The villagers whispered through their tears, clinging to the hope that perhaps, just perhaps, Officer Lee's story was not yet over. The question lingered like thunder in the night. Had the river claimed him, or would he rise again from its furious depths?
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Lý Tử Sam Review. Rất vui vì tập phim ngày hôm nay lại gặp được các bạn trong tập ngày hôm nay. Trong tập phim ngày hôm nay thì trong lúc có cứu trợ lũ lụt người dân ở khu vực Lý Tử Sam và cảnh sát Ni đang ở thì cảnh sát Ni đã phải đi hỗ trợ người dân chạy lụt và nước thì lên rất là cao và lũ quét nước chảy rất là mạnh cùng với mưa to gió lớn. Cảnh sát Ni với vai trò là một người cảnh sát đã đi hỗ trợ người dân và thật không may là anh đã bị lũ cuốn trôi. Liệu rằng anh có sống sót hay không? Tất cả sẽ được hé lộ vào các tập tiếp theo sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh Lý Tử Sam Review. Nếu các bạn thấy tập phim ngày hôm nay hay, hấp dẫn, mới lạ, hãy cho mình xin một nút like, một nút chia sẻ và để lại bình luận ở dưới video nhé. Và đặc biệt là đừng quên hãy bấm vào nút đăng ký kênh có hình quả chuông ở dưới video để nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các tập phim sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh nha. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại vào ngày mai. Bye bye!